The sound of glass crunching underfoot still echoed in Elijah's mind as he sat in the warmth of Mayfield Cafe, the sun dipping low and casting long shadows across the wooden floor. After the chaotic encounter with the red vultures, a sense of calm had settled over the cafe, but Elijah couldn't shake the feeling that this was just the calm before another storm. First they show up, then they go quiet? It feels too easy, Elijah muttered, stirring the remaining ice in his soda. Miss Hattie, seated across from him, frowned, her worry lines deepening. "You did a brave thing, Elijah," she replied, her voice warm yet anxious. "But you've stirred the pot. Just be careful." He nodded, a mix of pride and apprehension bubbling in his chest. The phone in his pocket buzzed, another notification about the viral video. Elijah had never craved attention. He just wanted to protect the people in this small town. Just then, the door jingled, drawing their attention. A man stepped through, tall and broad with a weathered face that carried the weight of bad choices but also the warmth of hard-earned wisdom. He wore a leather jacket adorned with patches that looked less menacing than some Elijah had seen before. "Is Elijah Carter here?" the man called, scanning the room. Elijah felt a jolt of anxiety course through him. Had the red vultures decided to retaliate? "I'm Elijah," he said, rising from the booth cautiously. "Name's Bo," the man introduced, stepping closer with a handshake that felt strong but not threatening. "I'm from the Brotherhood. We heard about what went down at the cafe, and I need you to listen to me." Elijah's heart quickened. He had heard of the Brotherhood, a motorcycle club known for its community service. They were different, he had learned, unlike the red vultures. "What do you want?" "Let's take this outside," Bo suggested, nodding toward a table in the corner where they could talk privately without prying ears. Once they settled down, Bo leaned in, his expression serious. "Look, what you did took guts. But it's brought you into a world you're not prepared for. The vultures are going to come back. They don't take losing lightly. They'll be looking for payback." "I'm not afraid of them," Elijah replied, his voice steady. "I won't let them hurt anyone else." Bo raised an eyebrow, impressed by the conviction in the teen's voice. "I admire that. But it's not just about bravery. You need allies, training, a plan. You're young, and you've got heart, but heart alone isn't going to protect you or the people you care about." "What are you saying?" Elijah asked, crossing his arms, wary of Bo's intentions. "I'm saying we can help you. The Brotherhood is about protecting the community, not tearing it apart. We could train you, give you the skills you need to confront the vultures and keep your people safe." Elijah's mind raced. The idea of leaving his home for training was daunting, but so was the thought of being unprepared when the vultures returned. "And what's in it for you?" he asked. "Why would you help me?" Bo leaned back, his gaze steady. "Because we want to rewrite the narrative in this town, show that people can change. Just like you did for Travis and the others. We don't want our town to be defined by violence and fear." Elijah thought of the way the cafe had transformed, the laughter and conversations that echoed now instead of fear. "Okay, let's say I trust you," he said slowly. "What does that look like?" Bo smiled, a genuine warmth emanating from him. "We train. I know a few places. We'll work on your combat skills, strategies, and how to organize people. You've already seen the change you can make just by standing up. Imagine what you could do with the right resources behind you." Before Elijah could respond, the door swung open again, and in marched two of the familiar faces from the cafe incident, the wiry man with the skull tattoo and a broad-shouldered companion. Panic rippled through Elijah, but Bo stepped closer, signaling him to stay calm. "Looks like trouble just found you," Bo muttered under his breath. "Hey, you," the skull tattoo guy shouted, pointing directly at Elijah. "We're not done. You made a big mistake messing with us." Elijah felt the familiar surge of adrenaline, but instead of fear, he sensed a deeper resolve. He caught Bo's steely gaze, the older man ready. "You want to settle this?" Elijah called back, his voice unwavering. "Then let's talk like men, not cowards." The biker stepped forward, a sneer on his face. "You think you can just stand there and act tough? You don't know the trouble you've stirred." "I know exactly what I've stirred up," Elijah replied, now standing tall. "And it's more than just you." Bo moved to Elijah's side, asserting a calm but powerful presence. "You don't want to do this here. Not in this cafe." The tattooed man hesitated, glancing at his companion, uncertainty flickering in his eyes. But before they could respond, Miss Hattie emerged from the kitchen with an old baseball bat. She held it up, her voice firm as she stated, "You leave this town and my cafe alone, or you'll have to deal with me too." The bikers looked taken aback. A fierce, unexpected unity strengthened the atmosphere. The people in the cafe stood in solidarity behind Elijah, community members he hadn't realized were watching, some even filming on their phones. "Yeah, 'cause messing with a bunch of locals sounds like a good idea," the second biker scoffed, but his bravado faded as more patrons stepped forward, emboldened by Elijah's resolve. "Last chance," Elijah pressed, watching as they weighed their options. The leader's nostrils flared with frustration. He opened his mouth but, before he could respond, Bo stepped forward, positioning himself between the bikers and Elijah. "You're outnumbered and outclassed. Walk away before things get worse for you." After a tense moment, the bikers exchanged glances, then pivoted on their heels, retreating from the cafe. The patrons erupted in quiet cheers as they left, and Elijah felt a surge of relief wash over him. "Don't think this is over, kid," the leader muttered just before stepping outside. "We'll be back." Elijah didn't back down. "And I'll be ready." Once the bikers had vanished, the cafe filled with an unshakable energy. Miss Hattie grinned at Elijah, her eyes sparkling with pride, and a newfound sense of unity solidified among the patrons. "Did you see that?" Bo said, clapping Elijah on the shoulder. "You just rallied these people. They have your back now." Elijah felt exhilarated, his mind racing with possibilities. "What if we really could change things?" he thought, glancing around the room at the faces of those who believed in him. That evening, something shifted. Defiance against fear, camaraderie forged in bravery. Elijah realized this was just the start. He would embark on this journey not just for himself, but for a whole community. The sound of laughter filled the cafe as his resolve solidified into a powerful mission: to forge alliances, inspire change, and be the catalyst for a new kind of future in a town that understood the power of unity. As he stood at the center of that bustling room, looking at the faces around him, he knew they were in this together. What happened next would not only alter the dynamics of their town, but would spark a movement beyond their wildest dreams, one that could change everything. Elijah stood at the center of the bustling Mayfield Cafe, the aftermath of the confrontation still coursing through him, a tangible energy that felt almost electric. As the laughter and chatter enveloped him, he realized that the community had come together in a way he had never anticipated. It was more than just a cafe. It was a reflection of their collective spirit, one that had been dormant for too long. "Did you see how they backed down?" one of the patrons shouted, a young man no older than Elijah. He raised his glass in a toast. "To Elijah, our hero." Cheers erupted around the room, and Elijah felt warmth spreading through him as everyone joined in the celebration. But as the adrenaline began to wear off, the reality began to set in. The Red Vultures might have retreated, but he knew they would not give up easily. Bo, perched next to him, nodded toward the back door. "We need to capitalize on this momentum. Come on, you're ready for a bigger plan." "Where are we going?" Elijah asked, curiosity piqued. "We're heading to the Brotherhood's clubhouse. I want to get you set up to train properly, plus we can rally more support for what you've started here." Elijah gulped, the thrill of potential coiling in his chest but also tinged with apprehension. "What if the vultures come back while I'm gone?" "They won't," Bo assured him, his eyes sharp. "You just showed them a different kind of strength. But if they do, we'll be ready. Let's move." Elijah took one last look around the cafe, the faces of people he had always known, but who now felt like allies. A new sense of responsibility settled over him. He wasn't just standing for himself anymore, he was standing for all of them. As they exited the cafe, the cool night air washed over him. Bo's motorcycle sat waiting at the curb, a sleek machine with a patch of the Brotherhood sewn onto its leather seat. Elijah felt a rush of excitement and disbelief. He never imagined he'd be riding on a motorcycle tonight, especially given the day's events. "You've ridden before, right?" Bo asked with an amused glance. No, Elijah admitted, feeling his confidence flicker. Don't worry. I'll show you the ropes, Bo replied, laughter bubbling in his voice as they hopped on. Just hold on tight and keep your head down. With a roar of the engine, they sped off into the night, the wind whipping against Elijah's face as the world blurred around him. It felt exhilarating, but there was something deeper coursing through him, the awareness that he was stepping into a role he hadn't anticipated, a leader in the making. They pulled up to the Brotherhood's clubhouse, a place that looked both inviting and intimidating. The building was old but well-maintained, paint peeling slightly, adorned with memories of Brotherhood, a stark contrast to the chaos the Red Vultures represented. As they entered, Elijah was greeted by a chorus of nods and smiles. Men and women alike seemed eager to welcome him. Gather round, everyone. Bo called, his voice booming in the spacious room. The chatter died down, and all eyes were on Elijah. This is Elijah Carter. He's just shown the heart of a true leader. Tonight, we're going to train him and figure out how we can best support his mission. Elijah shifted awkwardly, but met their gazes with determination. Thank you for welcoming me, he started, his voice steadier than he felt. The cafe incident isn't just about me, it's about everyone who stood up. If we work together, we can keep our community safe. A short laugh broke the tension. A rugged-looking man with a thick beard stepped forward. You got guts, kid. But guts alone won't keep you safe. You need skills. And just like that, the night transformed into a whirlwind of martial arts training, strategy consultations, and discussions about community outreach. Elijah sparred with seasoned members, learning how to deliver a punch and absorb a hit. He soaked in every piece of wisdom shared, feeling more confident with each drill. Time flew, and before he knew it, the room buzzed with excitement and ideas. We should schedule community outreach events, suggested a woman with a vibrant tattoo sleeve. Teach self-defense, organize cleanup days, but also show everyone we're here to help. Elijah nodded, ideas racing in his mind. Yes, we can work with the local schools, create programs not just for kids but for adults too. A town-wide initiative that changes the narrative from fear to empowerment. The members of the Brotherhood exchanged glances filled with enthusiasm, their spirits rekindled by Elijah's vision. At that moment, he realized he wasn't just training to fight, he was building a community. Before long, the atmosphere shifted once more as if an uneasiness had slipped back in. Someone raised a hand. We're hearing the vultures aren't just hiding. They are furious and regrouping. Travis spotted a couple of them around town today. A murmur rippled through the room. Elijah felt the weight of fear settle in once more. We need to be strategic, Bo said. Stay vigilant, and keep our ear on the street. But we can't let fear dictate our actions. We have the numbers now, together. Elijah nodded, feeling the resolve that fueled him in the cafe start to burn brighter. We're not going to be intimidated. We'll showcase what it means to be a community. We'll show them that we're all in this together. Behind them, a man spoke up. Let's put together a town meeting. Inform everyone about what's happening and empower them to stand up. We can't shy away from this anymore. Absolutely, Elijah said, gratitude swelling within him. This isn't just about training, it's about building bonds. The more connections we create, the harder it will be for them to break our spirit. As everyone exchanged ideas, the energy surged through the Brotherhood, morphing into something tangible, a commitment to changing not just their own lives, but the lives of everyone in Mayfield. Elijah felt their strength surging, a promise of support that would ripple through the community. By the time the night wound down, Elijah knew this was only the beginning. The way they came together, bantered, planned, they would rise stronger, united against any threat. They were not just ready for a fight, they were ready to ignite a movement, one born from resilience and courage. As Elijah rode home that night, the wind tangling through his hair, he felt the weight of responsibility settle into his bones. He had stepped into a new life, a life dedicated to protecting his town and uplifting his community, one where unity would triumph over fear. And he couldn't shake the feeling that their fight had only just begun. The following days were a whirlwind of preparation and determination for Elijah. Each morning began early, and each evening faded into late-night strategizing sessions at the Brotherhood Clubhouse. The urgency to strengthen their community filled the air like electricity, tinged with a warning that the red vultures were restless. Every encounter with a resident brought a new sense of purpose. Elijah was not just a teenager anymore. He was a beacon of hope for Mayfield. Elijah stood before a gathering of community members in the gymnasium of the local community center. The room was packed, local families, students from the school, and even a few curious faces he recognized from the cafe. But there was an air of uncertainty. Children fidgeted as parents whispered anxiously to one another. Elijah took a deep breath. "Thank you all for coming. I know things have felt unsettling since the incident at the cafe," he began, his voice ringing out, steady and clear. "But I'm here to tell you that we are stronger together." The members quieted, the room leaning in, eager for his words. The red vultures thought they could intimidate us. They thought they could sow fear among us. But we're not just going to let that happen. We're going to show them what our community stands for. A wave of quiet enthusiasm rippled through the crowd. We're building programs that will uplift us, empower us, and most importantly, we're organizing a neighborhood watch. A man in the back stood up, skepticism etched on his face. But this could only escalate things. What if they come for us again? And what if we do nothing? Elijah retorted, his resolve hardening. What if we just let fear keep us silent? If we want to change, we have to be brave enough to stand up. We have to be proactive, for our children's sake, for our whole community. He paused, taking in the emotions swirling in the room. No one should have to feel unsafe just walking down the street. We're going to create a support system, organize patrols, hold self-defense workshops, and most importantly, we're going to unite as a community. A woman near the front spoke up, her voice stronger than before. "I've seen how you've inspired others, Elijah. I want to help. I'm a counselor, and I can help lead the workshops." Elijah felt a spark of hope. Exactly. If we all bring our unique skills and talents to the table, we can make this work. One by one, others began to raise their hands, offering their support. An older man with a weathered face stepped forward. "I used to be in law enforcement. I can work with you to create a plan and train volunteers for the patrols." Encouragement echoed through the room as more and more voices joined in. Together, they began to outline a community safety strategy, creating a schedule for volunteer patrols, and planning workshops for self-defense and conflict resolution. Elijah felt the fire ignite within him. They were truly coming together. As the meeting drew to a close, a sense of solidarity filled the air. Attendees were breaking into small groups, exchanging contact information, and discussing how they could contribute. Elijah lingered, feeling the weight of this newfound responsibility settle comfortably on his shoulders. Suddenly, Bo appeared at his side, a reassuring presence. "You did great up there. It looks like you've got a solid plan coming together." "Thanks, Bo," Elijah said, gratitude spilling over. "But what if the vultures don't take this lying down? They've got to respond to our efforts." "You'll have the entire community behind you," Bo replied, a twinkle in his eye. "And the Brotherhood stands ready to step in when needed. But we need to be smart about this. It's not just about confrontation. It's about empowering everyone to feel secure and united." Elijah took a deep breath, his heart swelling with a mix of hope and apprehension. "I know we can make this work. We need to get the word out, build momentum, and prepare for what's to come." The very next day, Elijah and several volunteers hit the streets, plastering flyers about the neighborhood watch and upcoming self-defense classes on every telephone pole and community board they could find. As they distributed the materials, dynamic conversations began. Residents who previously kept to themselves were excitedly discussing their backgrounds and what they could offer to the initiative. Elijah felt the fiery response in the community. Those once shadowed by fear now walked with renewed confidence. But in the back of his mind lingered the thought that the vultures were plotting their next move. That evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows down Main Street, Elijah labored over the final details of their first community meeting. His phone buzzed with a new notification, a message from Travis, the former leader of the Red Vultures, who was now trying to find his place in this new paradigm. Can we meet? I need to talk, it read. A sense of unease washed over him. What could Travis possibly want? But deep down, Elijah felt some measure of optimism. Perhaps Travis had fully transitioned into this new life, somehow finding a way to peace after the chaos. He typed back, "Sure. Let's meet at the cafe." The next day arrived brighter than the one before, pulsating with possibilities and hope. As Elijah stepped into the Mayfield Cafe, he spotted Travis sitting at a corner table, looking a little less hardened than the last time they'd met but still burdened by struggles of the past. "Thanks for coming," Elijah said, sitting down across from him. Travis glanced around, paranoia etched on his expression. "Look, I know things got heated last time, and I'm really sorry for what my crew did." Elijah nodded, recalling the chaos of that night. "I appreciate you saying that. I'm just trying to help my community. It means a lot to me." "I want to be a part of that," Travis said, sincerity shining through his weary eyes. "I've seen the way things have changed since you stood up to us. I want to be different, but I can't do that alone." "What do you mean?" Elijah asked, both intrigued and cautious. "I've got connections, people who follow our old code. I can help bridge the gap between them and you. But if I'm going to do this, I need your help to show them that there's more out there than just violence." Elijah leaned back, weighing the implications. "You really think they'll listen to you?" A shadow flicked across Travis's face. "They might. But only if we show them something worth following. You have the community's heart behind you, and I still have ties that would make a difference. Together, we could change everything." The weight of the conversation settled heavily on Elijah's shoulders. He wanted to believe that they could unify the town, but trusting Travis presented risks he wasn't sure he could bear. "Let me think about this," he said cautiously. "It's a big step." Travis nodded, understanding. "I get it. Just know I'm serious about wanting to change. A new path for all of us, if you're willing to consider it." As he sat there watching Travis, Elijah felt a shift, a feeling that perhaps, amidst the chaos, there was a glimmer of hope waiting to unfold. If they combined their efforts, they might not just transform their town, they could redefine what it meant to be a community. Leaving the cafe, Elijah's mind raced. He had the chance to spark unity and change on an even broader scale, a chance to turn the tide away from violence, toward healing. The battle was far from over, but for the first time, he felt like they were standing on the cusp of something truly remarkable. This journey wasn't just his anymore. It was now a tapestry woven from the hopes, fears, and dreams of an entire community ready to stand together. Elijah walked along the winding paths of Mayfield, the early evening light casting a golden hue over the town. The same streets that had once felt constricting now radiated possibilities as vibrant as the sunset. The conversation with Travis echoed in his mind. Their potential alliance could serve as a turning point for everyone, yet the weight of uncertainty lingered like a shadow. When he reached the safety of his home, Elijah felt a surge of determination wash away his doubts. He sat at the kitchen table, scribbling notes, crafting strategies for how to present the idea of working with Travis to the Brotherhood. This wouldn't just be about integrating two perspectives. It would be about defining a new narrative for Mayfield, one where collaboration triumphs over division. The following morning, Elijah gathered at the clubhouse with Bo and the others. They were starting to formulate plans for the community outreach initiatives. "Today, we're going to discuss where we can go from here," Elijah said, his heart racing slightly. As he looked around the room, he was met with eager faces, all ready to listen. "Before we dive in," Elijah began, speaking carefully, "I want to share something important. I had a conversation with Travis." A ripple of murmurs spread through the room, followed by a mix of skepticism and curiosity. "You mean the guy from the Vultures?" Bo replied, crossing his arms. Elijah nodded, summoning all the courage he could muster. "Yes." He reached out expressing a desire to change. "He wants to help us bridge the gap with those still wrapped up in the violence of the past." "Is he trustable?" Another voice chimed in. "I know it's a lot to ask," Elijah replied, feeling the weight of their hesitance. But he seemed sincere, and I think we have the chance to turn a former enemy into an ally. If we can show that the Brotherhood wants the same thing, a safe, supportive community, we might be able to reach those who are still struggling with the old ways. Slowly, the tension in the room shifted, replaced by contemplative looks. It wasn't just Elijah's call to action anymore. It was shaping into a collective mission. Maybe bringing him in could work, Bo replied. If we have him on our side, it might give other vultures a reason to rethink their choices. One of the women in the group, her eyes fierce and determined, chimed in, if we can help those residents feel like they have a role in building something positive, maybe some of them wouldn't feel the need to resort to violence. Elijah's heart swelled with hope. Exactly. If the vultures can see a different path, perhaps it could help heal old wounds. It's time for a new story. After a full discussion, they all agreed to hear Travis out. Elijah could see the resolve solidifying among the members of the Brotherhood, their readiness to forge a new path. Once the scene was set, he planned to invite Travis to their next community forum. Weeks passed as the Brotherhood began to expand the Neighborhood Watch program, gathering momentum. The self-defense classes garnered enthusiastic participation, along with more community-centric activities. Children laughed at the workshops, while adults bonded over shared goals, the pulse of solidarity growing stronger each day. The day of the community forum arrived, buzzing with anticipation and nerves. Elijah stood at the front of the gymnasium, looking out at the crowd, a mixture of concerned residents, curious newcomers, and familiar faces from the Brotherhood. Tension hung heavy in the air as he introduced Travis. Everyone, thank you for being here, Elijah began, his voice steady. I know that many of you may feel uncertain about the changes happening in our town, especially with someone like Travis here to speak. But I truly believe that if we want to break free from the shadows of the past, we must listen and open our hearts. He stepped aside, gesturing for Travis to come forward. The former gang leader looked nervous, but his resolve shone through. Thank you, Elijah, Travis said, his voice a bit shaky. I messed up a lot in my life, and I get that I've been a part of the problems we face in this town. But I want to change. I see how strong this community has become, how you're all fighting for each other. He paused, scanning the audience. I would like nothing more than to help you make a difference. A few murmurs broke through once more, this time filled with interest rather than hostility. Elijah could feel the weight shift in the room. Travis continued, I know the vultures are restless, but they are not all bad. Many of them don't know anything different. If they see an avenue to something better, they might follow. I'm ready to bring my ties with them into the open. Will you give me that chance? A woman stood up, her expression reflective. My son got caught in that world. I hate the way it spiraled out of control. But I also want to believe that change is possible. If you're serious, maybe we can reach others. Elijah felt hope burst like fireworks in his chest as more people began to share their stories, fears, and hopes for the community. Slowly, a dialogue ignited, with Travis answering questions, dispelling doubts. He spoke candidly about the struggles many faced, lost choices, addiction, and the hunger for belonging. As voices mingled, a sense of healing unraveled. Elijah stood back, watching a partnership blossom, one that not only helped them understand their fears, but also paved the way for inclusivity. The community was becoming everyone's story, intertwined with resilience and hope. The meeting wrapped up with genuine promises and new connections forged. That night, Elijah found a quiet moment to reflect. As the stars sprinkled across the sky, he sensed that they had crossed a threshold. He thought back to the first time he had stood in the cafe, feeling alone. Now, he was part of something so much greater. The fear that once gripped Mayfield was beginning to transform into a cautious optimism, and every small step forward became a step towards healing. Days turned into weeks, and the initiative continued to flourish. Travis integrated himself into the community. He was no longer the face of past violence, but rather a voice for change, securing the fragile threads that kept their community together. One evening, while everyone served dinner at the community center, Elijah caught a glimpse of families laughing, children racing through the rooms, and adults sharing stories of triumph over adversity. Bo squeezed Elijah's shoulder, a knowing smile on his face. This is just the beginning, isn't it?" Bo mused, watching their community thrive. "Yeah," Elijah replied, filled with a sense of purpose and promise. "We have a long road ahead, but we're on the right path now." As laughter echoed around him, Elijah knew in his heart that they had rekindled hope and transformed the spirit of Mayfield. Change was possible, and together they would continue to rewrite their story. The looming shadows of the past felt lighter, and a brighter horizon stretched before them as they embraced a future built on unity and resilience. It was only the beginning, but it was a beginning that spoke of strength and compassion. A community reborn,